And whosoever lieth carnally with a woman that is bondmaid, betrothed to an husband, and not at all redeemed, nor freedom given her, she shall be scourged. They shall not be put to death, because she was not free. And he shall bring his trespass offering unto Yahweh, unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, even a ram for trespass offering. And the priest shall make an atonement for him with the ram of the trespass offering before Yahweh for his sin which he hath done. And the sin which he hath done shall be forgiven him. And when ye shall come into the land, and shall have planted all manner of trees for food, then ye shall count the fruit thereof as uncircumcised. In 3 years shall it be as uncircumcised unto you. It shall not be eaten of. But in the fourth year, all the fruit thereof shall be holy, to praise Yahweh withal. And in the fifth year shall ye eat of the fruit thereof, that it may yield unto you the increase thereof. I am Yahweh your God. Ye shall not eat anything with the blood, neither shall ye use enchantment, nor observe times. Ye shall not round the corners of your heads, neither shalt thou mar the corners of thy beard. Ye shall not make any cuttings in your flesh for the dead, nor print any marks upon you. I am Yahweh. Do not prostitute thy daughter to cause her to be a whore, lest the land fall to whoredom, and the land become full of wickedness. Ye shall keep my Sabbaths, and reverence my sanctuary. I am Yahweh. Regard not them that have familiar spirits, neither seek after wizards, to be defiled by them. I am Yahweh your God. Thou shalt rise up before the hoary head, and honor the face of the old man, and fear thy God. I am Yahweh. And if a stranger sojourn with thee in your land, ye shall not vex him. But the stranger that dwelleth with you shall be unto you as one born among you. And thou shalt love him as thyself. For ye were strangers in the land of Egypt. I am Yahweh your God. Ye shall do no unrighteousness in judgment, in meat yard, in weight, or in measure. Just balances, just weights, a just ephah, and a just hin shall ye have. I am Yahweh your God, which brought you out of the land of Egypt. Therefore shall ye observe all my statutes and all my judgments, and do them. I am Yahweh. You may be seated. Out of all the topics that I could possibly talk about, the one I'm going to be talking about today is probably the one I am extremely unqualified to even talk about. And that is something I actually brought up the last time I was up here. So I find it kind of a providence of God that this happens to be the next portion that I'm speaking on. If you remember last time I talked about forgiveness. And now that's not just a commandment from Yeshua, but it's also a commandment that's in there. It's actually the first half of what we recite. In verse 18 it says, Thou shalt not avenge nor bear any grudge against the children of thy people. That's the first half. The second half is love thy neighbor as thyself. And that's the topic I want to talk to you today about, is loving people. Love. It's probably my favorite topic, probably because it's something that I desire most of in my life. But I know how, like I said, I'm very unqualified to talk about it because I really don't know what it looks like. Me personally, I've never really seen it in my life. But I'm not here to talk about myself or, get you guys to pity me or anything. So I wanted to talk about what I think love is and what the Bible teaches about love. We've heard 1 Corinthians 13. I just want to go over those lists of stuff that's in there. Patience, kindness. It does not boast. It is not puffed up. Does not behave itself unseemly. Seeks not her own, is not easily provoked, thinks no evil. Rejoices not in iniquity, but rejoices in the truth. Bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never fails. And at the end of the chapter, he says it's the greatest. Faith, hope, and love remain. Love is the greatest. But I want to also challenge you. See, something I have an issue with that I always see an awful lot about is love is the most overused word in the English language. I heard about that this week. A few of us went to go see the movie God's Not Dead. And there's this guy that's in the movie who's a real jerk. But he says that. He says it's the most overused word in the English language, and we use it to get what we want. And it reminded me of a sermon I listened to once by a guy named Norm Wakefield. He said that God's love and the world's love is worlds apart. And how we live in a society that is pragmatic in its view of love. i.e., we love our car only when it works. We love our stove only when it works. We love the stuff that's in our lives. We love the people that are in our lives only when they do what we want them to do. Only then. That is not biblical love. That is not the love that God commands us to give. It is a love that demands nothing in return. And it is a hard love. It's the simplest answer to every problem in the world, and yet it is the hardest thing. Forgiveness may be the second hardest thing. But to truly love somebody is the hardest thing because it requires you to give everything of yourself to that person. Everything. Not holding anything back. And it's so hard because we live in a world where it's guaranteed that if you love that person, it will hurt. It will hurt. Because we live in an imperfect, fallen world where people make mistakes, where people will hurt each other and just do the stupidest things to each other, sometimes in the name of love. But love is what is required. Biblical love is patient. What is patience? Long-suffering. King James calls it long-suffering. We suffer along with that person. It is kind. When we think of kindness, I think of Mr. Rogers. Anybody remember Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood? Everybody remembers Mr. Rogers. Yeah, that guy, you know what? As much as we want to make fun about how nice he was, he hit it right on. I mean, he hit it right on when it came to being kind to people. He knew what it meant to be kind, to love people. It boasts. It does not boast. It's not puffed up. Love is humble. Love is humble. Not proud. I believe it's maybe in 1 Corinthians. Previously, it said that knowledge puffs up, but love edifies. Love builds up. In order to build something up, build it up, you have to be below it. Think about that. To build it up, you can't really build from the top. It's kind of difficult. But you have to build people. Our words are, Proverbs talks about it all the time, how the words we speak are very important. How the words of the wise are like honey, and they bring life. The power of life and death is in the tongue. Let us bring life to people. Stop thinking about ourselves. It is not rude. In the King James, it does not behave itself unseemly, but in the NIV, I believe it's not rude. We do our best to have good manners towards one another. We do our best to things that we probably do in private, probably not do in public, that are others would consider rude or discourteous. Seeks not our own. This is probably the cornerstone, the thing that love hinges on. Sacrifice. Sacrifice. Giving up of yourself. Giving up of yourself is not easily provoked. Slow to anger. It gets angry, but it's slow to anger. It is slow to anger. That ties right into patience. Ties right into it. Rejoices not in iniquity, but rejoices in the truth. It's interesting that at the beginning of Leviticus, the verse before Leviticus, it said, "You shall not hate your brother, but you shall rebuke him, and do not suffer his sin." In other words, when you love someone, you're going to seek their best, even if they don't necessarily like it. And you're going to try to encourage them and challenge them. If you see them trapped in a sin, you're going to try to pull them out and rescue them from it. I would ask the question, if on the Sabbath we would pull an ox out of somebody's ditch that's trapped, why wouldn't we pull our fellow brother or sister out of that ditch and help them, that ditch that they're in, that sin that they're trapped in, instead of condemning them and judging them, telling them they're not good enough or worthy, but encouraging and challenging them. Bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. I want to focus on the believes all things. Believes the best in people. Gives people the benefit of the doubt. doesn't automatically think the worst of them. When somebody says something or does something, we don't automatically assume that they're doing it out of envy or spite or some horrible reason behind it. We give them the benefit of the doubt and hope that they're doing it for the best. He also calls us in Matthew 5:43 and 44, he says, You've heard that it hath been said, Thou shalt love thy neighbor and hate thine enemy. But I say unto you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them that despitefully use you and persecute you. What I'm about to say, I guarantee you, a big majority of you will probably disagree with me on. There's no such thing as loving somebody and not liking them. There's no such thing. No such thing. Why? When we use that as an excuse to avoid that person. We use that as an excuse to keep them out of our lives. Oh, well, our personalities clash. We just don't get along. He rubs me the wrong way, etc., etc. I have a question for you. Very similar to the question I posed to you last time. When you get to heaven and you stand before the throne room of God, God allows you to enter into His kingdom. You're in heaven. And He sits there and He tells you, you know what? I love you, but I don't like you. So guess what? I'm going to completely avoid you. I'm not going to talk to you. I'm not going to invite you to dinner because you just rubbed me the wrong way. How absurd is that? Really? Absolutely ridiculous. That's insane. A personality clash? Think of Jesus and the apostles. Talk about a personality clash. There might have been a stinking battle there. But that's the excuse we use. So the person that rubs us the wrong way, we avoid them, we ignore them, we completely keep them out of our lives. Love your enemies. Invite them over for dinner. If the personality clashes, put your personality aside. Sacrifice yourself for that person. We're supposed to love one another. Not bicker and fight and argue amongst each other. It's an active love. This is not something that's up here. It's something that we do in our daily lives. And also loving the unlovable. The homeless. The guy that's down the street that's struggling. Maybe he needs a place to stay for a while. Oh, well, there's Salvation Army down the street. No. God's asking you. God is asking you to provide for that person. Can't we trust God enough that He would protect us? That He would provide for us when we do this for this person? It's what it's all about, love. It's hard. I understand. And maybe what I'm saying here tonight makes no sense, or today, because like I said, I really don't know what love looks like. I only think I know what the Bible says about it. And it's hard. It really is hard. C.S. Lewis once said that to love at all is to be vulnerable. Love anything, and your heart will certainly be wrung and possibly be broken. If you want to make sure of keeping it intact, you must give your heart to no one, not even an animal. Wrap it carefully around with hobbies and little luxuries. Avoid all entanglements. Lock it up safe in the casket. Safe, dark, motionless, airless. It will change. It will not be broken. It will become unbreakable, impenetrable, irredeemable. The alternative to tragedy, or at least to risk of tragedy, is damnation. The only place outside of heaven where you can be perfectly safe from all dangers and perturbations of love is hell. Risk it. Risk it and love your brother. Love your enemy especially. Just as Christ loved us. How many times does it compare? It says, love people as Christ loved you. As Christ loved you. Who died for us. Who gave up His life while we were His enemies. He died for His enemies. Love. Even if it hurts. Or To put it simply, the way that C.S. Lewis said it, you can go to hell. Thank you.